welcome to another edition of Mets Musings. I know it's been a while. I hope everybody had a great holiday and is ready to get back into the swing. And a lot of Met fans aren't happy with the movements of the Mets so far this year, but we'll take a look at that. But let's start today with some sad news. Mets legend Buddy Harrelson has died at the age of 79 after a battle with Alzheimer's. Uh, Buddy was with the team a long time, a lifer, you might say. He came up in 65. He played with them till 77 before getting traded away. Played with Texas and Philadelphia after that. Came back to the Mets as a coach in 1982. Left, came back in 85 as a coach and was there, eventually becoming manager of the Mets for a year and a half, 2 seasons, something like that, and was fired at that point, but always stayed with the organization uh, and became very popular and big on Long Island as he became a part owner of the Long Island Ducks, the Atlantic Baseball League team out in on Long Island, one of the best franchises in that league. So he's had a long and storied history in New York and really did it all from coach to manager to player to owner and a coach of the Ducks and an advisor until he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's a number of years ago and has struggled since then. And I have to say, I met Buddy a couple of times. Um, and the last time I saw him was at a Stu Leonard event for the 1969 World Championship team. And he was not the same man that I had met earlier in his life. So he struggled for that, but thankfully was there for the 50th anniversary of the 69 team and was able to partake in some of the events and uh, then was pretty much out of the public eye after that as we presume the Alzheimer's really took hold and changed his life um, and finally it took his life just the other day. So our thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family on such a sad occasion. Now he'll be with his roommate, Tom Seaver, for many years was his roommate on the road, and now they can be together again. So rest in peace, Buddy Harrelson.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for interesting baseball talk, opinions, and history.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for barbecue recipes, tips, and interviews from the world of barbecue. If you like baseball and if you like barbecue, then tune in to Baseball and BBQ. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and BaseballTalkRadio.com.
Did you know that Baseball PhD can be heard on BaseballTalkRadio.com?
Our shows rotate with other top baseball podcasts.
Now don't forget, that's BaseballTalkRadio.com.
With us, we'll help you get a PhD in life through baseball.
With BaseballTalkRadio.com, you'll hear the rest of the excellent universe of baseball podcasts.
Hello, baseball fans. You're listening to Baseball Talk Radio, the home of great baseball talk shows. At BaseballTalkRadio.com, you're going to find great shows like this one with the great Gary Mack and the MetsMusings podcast. And now back to the show.
Okay, in Mets news, I know people are unhappy with what is going on Uh, what David Stern is doing. People have gone so far to say that they missed the Wilpons. Hell, that's going some. That really is going some. I don't think does anybody really miss the Wilpons? I don't believe so. I don't think that's the case at all. But people aren't happy. But let's take a look at what the Mets have already done. They've done a lot, but they're not the big deals that everybody wants all the time. But hey, look, they told us they weren't going to spend the same amount of money last year and the year before. They went out and spent a lot and lot of money, and it didn't pay off. It paid off one year, but got them to the playoffs next year. It did not. So, what deals have the Mets already made this year? Well, they signed Harrison Bader to a 1 year, $10.5 million contract. He will probably take over center field, moving Nimmo over to left field for the majority of the time. They signed right-hander Luis Severino to a 1 year, $13 million contract. Right-hander Jorge Lopez to a 1 year, $2 million contract. Infielder Joey Wendell to a 1 year, $2 million contract. Right-hander Michael Tonklin to a 1 year, $1 million contract. Right-hander Austin Adams to a 1 year split contract. They also agreed to a 2 year deal with Sean Manaea last weekend to supplement the back of the rotation. They also fortified their pitching depth with two moves before Christmas, swinging a trade with Milwaukee for righty Adrian Hauser and outfielder Tyrone Taylor, and acquiring right-hander Johan Ramirez from the White Sox. They've also agreed to a minor league deal with left-hand reliever Danny Young, and that's what a rumor is. He'll be in big league camp this spring, would earn a $825,000 salary in the majors. He is represented by the Dynamic Sports Group. He's 29. He's seen big league time with the Mariners and Braves over the past few years, logging a combined 14 2/3 innings with a 2.45 ERA and a healthy 48.8 ground ball rate. He was particularly sharp with Atlanta, yielding just 1 run in 11 innings as a Brave, posting a 12-2 strikeout based on ball ratio. He did miss the bulk of the 2023 season due to a hip injury, but hopefully he'll be okay, and had surgery on that. So that's what the Mets have done so far. And what they've done is added some rotation depth. They have a starting rotation now, plus some good depth with McGill, Peterson when he comes back from his surgery, Joey Lucchesi, Jose Buto will all be there for relief, for backup in case of injuries, and we have Senga and Hauser now in the rotation, as well as Quintana and Severino, and I'm missing somebody, but I'm sure it'll come to me. If not, you can check the note. Oh, Sean Manaea, of course. So they have a starting five. They have some depth in the starting rotation. They've been rebuilding a bullpen, again, bringing in a lot of guys, a lot of relief pitches, and see what gels, what works, and comes up with for a good bullpen. Bullpens are finicky. 1 year they'll be great, the next year they'll be terrible. And don't forget, Edwin Diaz will be back. I'd still like to get a name guy to bridge to Edwin Diaz, that would be nice, but they're not going to pay a Josh Hader what he's looking for. They didn't want to pay a Blake Snell. They don't want to pay a Jordan Montgomery money. So I can understand what they're doing. I guess I understand both sides of the argument. I understand what the fans are saying, how upset they are, but I also understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to bridge 2025 and hold on to their prospects. And there has not been a deal that has come down the road that was worthwhile of giving up any top prospects for. It's just not out there. So what do you do? Well, they don't want to spend the money. They don't want to trade the top prospects. And they want to save some of the money so they can make a splash perhaps in 2025 and at the same time be competitive. Unfortunately, in New York, you can't rebuild. You have to readjust on the fly, as was, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to do. This team has some good bones to it. I mean, the majority of the guys that won 101 games are still here. Some have gone, some have left, but there is a good nucleus there, and it's just getting the right players around it. Now, the pitching has been an issue, no doubt about it, but this has not been the best class of free agents either to fill the Mets' needs. So they did the best they could with the confines of the budget that they want to keep and still put out a competitive team. We don't know if it'll work until we see what happens. But, anything. I mean, let's face it, they could have brought in Juan Soto and he could have hit 190 with 10 home runs. Who knows? You don't know. Brett Batty could emerge and be a 300 hitter with 20 home runs, or Vientos. The loss of Maurizio for the year, that's gonna hurt. But luckily, they have some depth there with a the players that they brought in the past, with the Acuna, who could maybe, if he's ready, could step up. And then you say, why do you sign an outfielder for 1 year? Well, they've got some guys they're high on. Drew Gilbert will start the year at AAA. They are extremely high on Drew Gilbert. They are extremely high on Jet Williams. Now, he's played short and he's played center. I would assume that you're going to see him a lot more in center this year with either Binghamton or perhaps even Syracuse. That would be to see how he handles AAA. He's 20 years old or 19. He's flashed through this system so far. He's going to hit a roadblock somewhere. So you may be better off setting him at Binghamton this year. Played well in Brooklyn, played well in Gulfport, played well in Binghamton last year towards the end of the season, and this year he'll move probably to AAA, or perhaps they'll start him in Binghamton. It might be better to start him in Binghamton, and you can move him to AAA during the season. Let him get comfortable and going in Binghamton, then move him to AAA. Pitching is where the Mets are weak right now. There are some names down there, but some of them are not ready yet. So they needed to bridge that gap. They needed to bring in guys that they could put on 1 or 2 year contracts that will bridge the gap, that have had some success in the past. Sean Manaea, Luis Severino, and hopefully they can find that magic. If they don't, if they struggle, then they have a Tyler McGill that they know. They have a Joey Lucchesi who has pitched well at the big league and the AAA level. And they'll have David Peterson come back, who it's a shame he got injured because he pitched so well at the end, towards the end of last year before the injury to his hip. So Jose Buto too is a possibility. Who pitched pretty good a few times for the Mets last season when he got the start. So that's what they're doing, folks. They're trying to build a winner for a long time, like Atlanta did. Like the the Dodgers went on a crazy spending spree. They weren't going to get, let's face it, the Mets weren't going to get Otani. They didn't want to spend that kind of money. They went after Yamamoto. They were going to spend the money on him. He turned them down. He didn't want to come here. The same thing with Otani. That was all talk. He wasn't going to leave he wants to stay in the West Coast. There's a strong Asian population there. He's closer to his home in Japan. He wasn't going to come here. Yamamoto, we thought we had a chance with connection to Senga, but he didn't want to come, he decided elsewhere. So, of course, they could have went after somebody else, but they didn't, and that's the thing. Now, there are reports today that the Mets have avoided arbitration with Pete Alonso. They have not signed him to an extension, but they have signed him for the 2024 season and avoided arbitration with him. He'll be getting 20.5 million or in that range. Now he had the great power year last year, but I'm a little concerned about his batting average. His batting average slipped considerably. He hit 217 last year. Um, in this day and age, I would think that would hurt his chances in free agency, but in this day and age, they don't care. They look at power. I'm concerned that, though, a lot of times when your batting average drops like that, eventually the power drops as well. We shall see. We'll see if he has a better year this year, batting average wise, and keeps the power numbers up as well. But if the Mets are going to sign him, they either have to extend him or wait until spring training or wait until the season's over. Or perhaps they might decide that if they are out of the race, they might move him. They may move him in mid-season. I don't think. Look, I have said that they should have moved him a year or so ago. I'm on record saying that, and I, if you move him at mid-season, though, you run the risk that you won't get as much as you would in the off-season. So they're not moving him this offseason. So that means they're either going to offer him an extension, and I don't know why they haven't as of now, or if they're waiting to see, let him go to free agency and then try to sign him. But then you run the risk of losing him. It's kind of the same thing they did with Brandon Nimmo, but I think Nimmo's a bit of a different player in that his loyalty, I think, brought him back here, and he liked the offer. He liked playing in New York. Alonso might have another idea. I mean, if the Dodgers or somebody like that comes along and offers him more money than the Mets, would he take it? I don't know. My guess is I'd be offering him 8 years at 230, something along that range. I don't know what he wants. I don't know how many years he wants. He probably wants plus 200. Maybe he wants 10 years. I don't know. He's 29. No, he'll be 30 next year. I don't think you can give a 10-year contract to a 30-year-old. So, 8 is even pushing it. I'd like to give 6, but I think 8 at 230 would probably be a good contract to him to take. And we'll see if that's what they offer, if that's what he takes, if there's an extension in the works. Who knows? But that is I think that's all the news up to date now. And that's my opinion on what the Mets did, what they did bridging to 2025. Let's remember that. But they're trying to put a contending team on the field in 2024 and build that connection between the 2 years. So, a lot of people are saying it's putting a lot of pressure on Edwin Diaz, but if had he been here last year, well, could he have made up the difference in the games? I don't know. I don't know offhand how many games the bullpen blew. Could he have saved half of those games? Would they have made the playoffs? I don't know. They won what 76 games, even if he saved 15 more games. Well, yeah, that could have been the difference. But we don't know how he would have been either had he come back. So we have him signed. He'll be back this year. And hopefully he'll stay injury free and the bullpen will gel around him. Now, there are still guys out there that perhaps they can pick as we get closer to spring training. A lot of guys haven't signed yet either. So, a couple of guys I mentioned, Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, Cody Bellinger hasn't signed yet. So it's been quiet. And so there are some things out there that could happen that could change the Mets' mind as well. They are interested in Jorge Sola. So we'll see. He could be another outfielder and a DH, and probably with his defensive numbers, he would play the majority of the games in DH, but you'd give him a time in the outfield. Starling Marte is he's off to a good start in winter ball. He's playing winter ball. He's having a good start, trying to come back from injury last year. Maybe he reaches the level of 2 years ago. That would be something to help the offense. And maybe with a guy like DJ Stewart, who came on strong, not the best glove in the world, but he gives it 100%, and he made some nice plays off and on. He wasn't awful, so maybe you could platoon a little bit, or at least give Marte more time off with a guy. You put a guy like Stewart in, if he can continue the offense that he showed last year in his stint up here with the Mets. So, and as I said, they, just signed Tyrone Taylor. They have him as well. So with the mix, maybe we can use some of these guys in a better way, that they're not worn out or tired, and avoid injury. All to be revealed in spring training and see what the plans are. Third base is still an opening here with Beatty. He didn't perform that well. Vientos, he hit pretty well, but came on strong, but his glove is weak. He's not going to be an everyday third baseman. Maybe he could be partly a DH and partly, things are shaking out here, and we'll have to see. And it could be all things for the future as well. What happens if Alonso leaves? Well, do you move Vientos to first base? Do you, if you can pick up Bellinger cheap now, do you sign him to a couple of years cheap? Uh, these are real things. Bellinger isn't signed. Do you move him? Do you try to maybe grab him cheap for a year or two and have him in place if Alonso left next year? All stuff that's on down the road. But I just wanted to give my opinion on what they're doing and what the plan is, and not to panic. Don't worry about it. It's only a game, and there's bigger things in life to worry about. But don't get so upset about it. I've been a fan since they started in 1862, and I've just learned this over a course of time not to get excited about it. We like to have a winner every year and be competitive, but sometimes it just doesn't work. And they're just trying a different thing. And my dog is barking crazily for one reason I don't know. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. Don't know if there'll be one weekly. Not a lot of stuff happening, but we'll eventually get back to the weekly show. But we'll see how until we get closer to spring training and whatnot. The variety show, and that's why you should subscribe to the show on YouTube. Hit the bell. And subscribe to the show so you'll know when an episode of Mets Musing comes out. Same thing if you're listening to the audio version of the podcast. Subscribe to it on Apple Play, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, I think it is now. Wherever you get your audio podcasts from, just make sure to make us a favorite, and that way you'll know whenever a new episode will be released. So until next time, remember to keep the faith, stay optimistic, and let's go Mets. And I'll see you next time on another edition of Mets Musings.